Introduce us to this evening, this amazing opportunity we have in the grand scheme of the trajectory of the Glassworks project. We have been from initial bright sparks of an idea, who even believes in this same idea and where should we go with it and who's excited, to hunkering down and building committees, and then all the way to putting in a bid for the Bayview School property, one of our local schools that recently closed. And we were thankfully at the point in our organization that we could actually get a bid in, and we didn't get it. There, as the forces be, there was people with more money and quicker on their toes, and as things go, that one was not meant to be. But what we have tonight is this amazing opportunity with Peter Cameron, who runs the Ontario Co-operatives Association, who has seen hundreds of organizations just like us start from a wild, crazy idea and grow into a functioning and successful, or maybe not so successful organization, and can give us a little guidance and expertise as to our next steps as we learn from the experience of putting in a bid for the Bayview School property, and look seriously at the other properties that we've been seriously considering, that we're really excited about, that could really be the home for this beautiful seed of an idea, and answer all of our questions and give some expert advice as to some of the next steps, some places that we should focus our effort, maybe some of the missing links in our process, and to guide our governance structure a little bit as we're developing exactly how the Glassworks works and how decisions are made, and how we can all pool our resources and our energy and our imaginations and our expertise and our investments together to make this thing a reality. So, if it's okay, I think we have a really awesome number of people here. Some who have been involved in the Glassworks from the beginning, some who have come in at various stages throughout the process, some who I think are even maybe here for the first time. Maybe what I'll do is go through a little bit of a background about Glassworks, and then we can do a quick round of introductions of who people are, so you have sort of a way to relate who you are to the project that we're sort of embarking on together. And then we will hear from Peter, who's heard all about our project, knows where we're at, and can give us a little bit of a co-op 101 for the stage of where we're at. And then we'll have an opportunity to ask questions about anything that we need clarification on. What's next? What's my role? How do we present what we're doing? What are we missing? All these kinds of questions. So, super quick 101 for people who haven't been involved from the get-go. Glassworks, the initial concept of the idea was actually brought to Toronto from the Beach Community Energy Cooperative from Toronto. So we have here Bob Spencer and Yuri Skopek, who are members of the board of directors of Glassworks now, who had done a beautiful community solar energy project on the roof of their neighborhood school in the beaches in Toronto, and had great success with it. And we're looking at well, what can we do next? How does this project grow? And we're starting to think more on a community scale, and what does that look like? And sort of scouting all around Southern Ontario, and stumbled across Someone Sound that's still has relatively affordable property, and just kind of sprinkled this idea around the community. And it's been about 1.5 years since that initial sprinkling, and there's been such exciting response and energy, and people so excited, because of the housing shortage, specifically affordable housing shortage, in the Sound, because of the number of people looking for sustainable housing options that can't necessarily find them and or afford them, for people who are looking to take the next stage in their life cycle of housing, that are downsizing and are not finding good options, and how to put all these ideas together in one package. And this is sort of what has been informing Glassworks for about 1.5 years now, as we start to formalize and build the foundations of our next steps. So one thing that we've been tinkering away with, coming out of all of our conversations, all of our meetings, all of our gatherings, is like a clarified statement of what it is that we believe in. And I think this might actually be the first time that we've like written it in marker on a big sheet of paper to share with a group of people in public. So I fully welcome comments, and I'll put pens right here that you guys can add stuff to it privately if you want to later, comments about how we can refine this, but I wanted to share this together tonight. So, our working version of the mission of the Glassworks, the answer to why we exist, is that the Glassworks Cooperative exists to create a net zero, which means that we're not creating a whole bunch of carbon and polluting the environment in the process. A net zero, affordable, multi-generational living, and an economic development project that benefits Owen Sound as a whole. And the Glassworks Land Trust, which would be a component of the project that actually owns the property, exists to hold a part of Owen Sound real estate in perpetuity, with lands either subdivided and or leased for development in accordance with Glassworks Co-op's mission, values, and vision. So our core values, what do we believe in, is resiliency, environmental championing, consensus building, a co-design process, which is something that you rarely see or have the opportunity to partake in most housing options, regenerative agriculture, mutual respect of the members, a design for people, not cars. So the way that we would lay out whatever the format and design of the space was would facilitate community building and gathering, and not just be, parking lots with entrances coming off them. We believe in autonomy and local control of lands and shared access to commons and natural resources and desirable land features, including water access. So for example, if we manage to secure a piece of waterfront property, that might be the only time that affordable housing has access to the water, no sound, and views of the sunset, because those things don't often go hand in hand. We believe in multi-generational, diverse, and accessible housing, and cooperative education and outreach in the way that we go through the process of setting up these spaces and through the process of designing them together. And we're striving towards a mix of co-living with shared amenities and modest living units, and then more luxurious market units. So part of the financial structure would be, making some more expensive places available, so that the other places are more affordable. So these are some of the core values that we have been talking about and that we want to piece together into this solid vision of what Glassworks will be. And in one statement, the kind of future that we want, the vision for Glassworks, is that Glassworks Co-ops believes in a future where people of all ages and different means can learn, work, and live with voluntary mutual support in a beautifully designed and net zero community. So, in one phrase, we believe that affordability and sustainability and community shouldn't be mutually exclusive ideas. That we know that those can be built together into one beautiful, commonly designed idea, and that it's entirely possible. Even though we don't see that anywhere else, we know that it's possible, and that we're committed to making that happen in Owen Sound. So we're really excited for everyone who's been part of this process so far in helping build this mission and values and vision. And I think at this point, it'd be really nice to do just a quick round of introductions. If everyone can just take a breath and in 10, 20, 30 words, let us know a little bit about who you are and what you're excited about the Glassworks project and or what you bring to the table. And then I'll introduce Peter. Sound good? Should I skip you for now and save your introduction for...
Yes.
Okay. Pretend he's not here yet. The intro's coming. So let's start with Logan.
So I'm Logan.
Should we do this?
And so some people in the neighborhood like to call me Green Jesus. But I'm actually Green Jesus.
Scream Jesus.
Yeah, yeah. But, well, because I love spreading forgiveness and compassion and telling people about compassion meditation, but it's actually a Tibetan Buddhist practice. Tibetan Buddhist. But yeah, I'm really interested in the affordable housing and kind of sustainable communities where we have, everything available.
My name is Barry Randall. I work with a local not-for-profit, the Greater Sustainability Network, and we were involved helping to facilitate some of the earlier meetings around Glassworks. So things have moved along a lot. I haven't been involved in the last little while, but I'm glad they did come up. Things are moving forward. What are we hearing here? Yeah.
Have you seen that here?
I'm Graham Bland. As already said, I work here. I was at the first meeting and kind of got caught up in a wave and I've been swept along by it. And I'm still here, yeah. But it's basically what Logan said about affordability and sustainability around coming in terms of my engagement in community as well.
Yeah. And Graham's an official board member.
I'm a hanger-on.
So you can take any complaints to him.
I've been compelled to put my signature on documents.
I'm Judy Landon. I've been here for 15 years, and it's a topic that is of interest to me, and I'm one of your first comers.
Excellent.
I'm Joan Beecroft. I read about this in the Sun Times a while back, and when I heard about the meeting, I thought I'll go find more.
I'm Marianne Thomas, and I'm interested in housing and co-ops and learning more.
I'm Lee Grigg, and I'm a volunteer on one of the little subcommittees, and I'm a dad, and I'm just looking to be a part of something that makes a good role model for my kids.
Maybe we'll sneak back, catch these guys, and then we'll catch back up with you, okay?
Oh, I'm Zoe Thurling, and I'm a concerned parent about the environment and also looking for a future place to call home and maybe pass on to my kids. And I'm founding board member and secretary.
I'm Sylvia Statham, the Executive Director of Lutheran Social Services. We developed St. Francis Place and Affordable Place, and we also own some other affordable housing buildings around St. Francis Place. There's such a need, and we've got to stop relying on government money to make this happen, so this is exciting.
I'm Steve Calvin Miller. I'm just new here, come to learn what it's all about.
And I'm Linda Kelmer-Miller, I guess, also here to learn more about it. This is our first time here, and interested in sustainability and also affordable housing.
Excellent. Well, welcome. I hope we answer all your questions tonight and get started in the whole project.
My name is Vito Kreutzer. My first time here was suggested by Zoe and Barry a couple weeks ago. I've been living off the grid for 6 years. I've been involved with renewable energy for over 30 years. I've helped develop 2 co-ops, one food and one energy co-op, one which was not successful. So I'm involved in a lot of climate change issues as well. So I try to live by what I talk.
Excellent. Well, we're glad to have you on board with our expertise.
My name is Carlos. I'm a solar electrician. Hopefully I can participate in the construction of this place.
My name is Santo, and I'm with Glassworks Solar here in town. I'm an energy consultant, so I'd like to help out any way I can.
Very interesting. I think we're very much taking advantage of your expertise.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for getting attracted to this amazing idea.
It's a great idea.
And I'm Bob Spencer, and came here in August of 2016 to look at 2 landfill dumps that we were hoping to put solar farms on. It was just a competition sponsored by the city. And as my daughter said, we came second. Silver is for losers. But we decided we love the area, and Yuri and some of the other people on our board have been all over the place looking at possible places where we can go as far off the grid as possible for something like this. This is a dream.
Yuri Skopek, and I'm an architect and planner, and as Bob says, and OSU said, we started this thing in the beaches. I just been to Amsterdam, where there are so many wonderful examples of things like that. So I think it's about time we did something in Canada. Hopefully even better. So that's kind of what I'm excited about.
Excellent. And Yuri and Bob are both officially on the board of directors as well, and driven up from Toronto to be here tonight.
My name is Carrie James, and I don't live in Owensound right now. I live on a rural property around Markdale area, and I'm still working, but I'm close to retirement. I work for 2 ag groups, and one of them is a regenerative agriculture group. And I came to the last meeting, and I was really thrilled with it, enthralled by it. It's the community co-op aspect of it that really attracts me.
I'm Anne Corita. I guess I would have to admit right off the bat I'm an idealist. And what I'd like to see and to be part of is to see how the ideal of the rights of everyone to have equal access to any kind of housing that gives them the satisfaction of their lives. I can't imagine any other thing in our lives than home. Home makes us happy if possible. So everyone should have equal access with the protection of the needs of groups of people that need affordability and accessibility.
Thank you so much, Anna. Thank you for being here and speaking my voice. And I don't know if I told you this before, but one of my favorite quotes of all time is that the idealist is the only realist.
Thank you. I've been I've been here almost 30 years, but more and more I'm hearing from friends who are close to my age who are trying to find affordable housing in this town. And I've been chasing the idea of co-op housing for several years, and so it's just nice that someone took a step.
Hi everybody, I'm Jan Chamberlain. I'm here with the hat on of Vice Chair of the Council on Aging. And the Council on Aging is working in the county, both counties, Grey and Bruce, and our pillars are from the World Health Organization, and the need for housing has been the top need. So we're actually coming up to a senior summit, and one of the panels we have is on housing. So we have been asked to look at whether Glassworks could be part of that panel. So that's why I'm here today. And so that'll be on, I'll talk to you more later.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here, and we're obviously more than happy to participate in anything that will keep these balls rolling and get the next step happening. Thank you. Welcome.
My name's Janet Posey, and I've been here from the beginning because it sort of spawned from the family. So this is my daughter-in-law. Yes, and I had nothing to do with it. I just gave birth to some smart men who know what anyway, I believe in this concept so much. I don't know if I would be able to live in a community like this in Owen Sound. What I'd like to do is to see this whole thing happen in Owen Sound and then take a little pocket over to Wyerton, which is where I want to be. I want to be in Wyerton. That's my hometown. So I'm here to give as much support as I possibly can to see this happen. I take my hat off to you always, Kelsey, for and dear Zoe over there, the two of you. I mean, dynamite for everything that you've done. And if I've missed anybody else in the crowd, clearly. But no, I'm here to support as much as I can, and I'm great at doing dishes and, cleaning up and providing refreshments to people. This is where I'm useful.
Which is the absolute essence of community building.
Well,
making sure everyone's fed and happy and in the same place with a clean cup of tea.
That's my plan.
Okay, my name is Dean. My main claim to fame is Kelsey's father.
I wasn't just stacking the crowd. Come and be excited about joining.
I'm from Hamilton, and I've been involved in environmental movement, sustainable living, simple living, multiple use of spaces, and I think I've looked at every co-op in Hamilton, of which there are many, but mostly older ones built back in the 40s and 50s. And I like the way people work together to maintain their buildings and whatever else they're doing with it, apart from building maintenance. Some do gardening, some do go beyond the building structure and participating in the cleaning and the painting and all that. So I've been following it for a long time. I don't think I need to say any more.
Excellent. Well, after all that, I realized that I always forget to introduce myself. So I'm Kelsey Carrier, Dean's daughter, Janet's daughter-in-law. No other relatives in the house, it's okay. And I grew up in Owen Sound and have always had a strong affinity for environmental projects and things that basically help make the world a better place. And after years of activism and beating my head against the wall, I ended up going back to school for urban planning to try and understand how this whole system works and how to get involved and actively help building better communities and better systems that will feed people and our planet in a healthy, sustainable way. And ultimately, one of the things that is most satisfying is getting a group of people like this together. And I know sometimes it seems like long and arduous to have everyone introduce themselves, but the ultimate outcome of that is realizing that there are so many people that care so much about this planet, about our community, about the individuals in our community, about beauty, about sustainability, and there's very little in our built structures that represents that. Very little in our government systems that represents that. And if we're going to get that, if we're going to have places like that and systems like that to live in, we're going to build them ourselves. And it exists in other countries, in other communities, on different scales. We've seen it, we know it's possible, and we're all committed and inspired, and here we all are. So it's super exciting. I'm so glad that you guys are all here from various stages of the process, from jumping in to help propelling us to the next steps. So the one thing I'll say a couple times tonight is make sure we have your email address or phone number so that we can keep connected, because you obviously saw that I wasn't taking notes of everyone's attendance as you introduced yourselves, so please make sure you sign in so we can keep in touch. And I think with that, I'd like to introduce Peter. I need my cheat sheet.
Say what?
I need my cheat sheet.
Oh.
So as I mentioned before, Peter is the head of the Co-op Association of Ontario. So he's primarily responsible for supporting existing cooperatives and supporting new co-ops in starting up by responding to their inquiries, providing technical assistance, and identifying funding opportunities to expand their cooperative development. There we go, we got it. Doing two things at once. So he also oversaw the recent Ontario Trillium grant, which supported the development of new cooperatives, and I'm going to preempt, there we go, which saw the development of new cooperatives across the province, as well as strengthen the regional awareness and collaboration between cooperatives and credit unions. So he joined the Ontario Cooperative Association in 2011, and cooperatives have always been his passion, and he has extensive experience starting and working in cooperative businesses. He was on the founding board of Silverwood Cooperative, the Silverwood Housing Cooperative, the Guelph Food Cooperative, the Guelph Co-op Council, and the Sumac Community Worker Cooperative that runs Planet Bean Coffee. And he was also a co-op business developer and executive director of the Ontario Worker Co-op Federation from 1993 to 2002. And with
hard
that,
to remember back that far.
It looks like your introduction goes even further back, but I'm not going
Thank
to
you.
go
No,
there.
that's good. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peter, for being here. And can I just make one little recommendation before Peter starts? Why don't we all just scrunch up a little bit closer? Because we were didn't know how many people were going to come tonight and whether we should, be set up for breaking out in smaller groups later, but I think we're a good size that we should stick together, benefit from each other's questions and answers. So snuggle up so that you're close enough that you can hear each other. Check, check, check. Yeah. And so don't be shy of your neighbors and just like snuggle up so much that you can hear each other. Because we have this incredible opportunity to ask all of our most burning questions and benefit from the answers to all of them. So here we go.
So thank you so much. I'm really privileged to be part of a dynamic group that's in the ongoing development of a very important project. And yes, there are lots of other things that are happening in Ontario and all over the place, in particular Amsterdam, which has got some fantastic examples, but also BC and all over the place. My background, you heard a little bit of it there, and this particular pamphlet that's being handed out by Zoe, just to quickly give you who we are as the Ontario Co-operative Association. And co-ops, they've been around since 1844. That's what we sort of, go back historically. I mean, they've been around before then. But we trace the origins back to the Rochdale Food Co-op that started in England because people were getting ripped off by the company store and they wanted quality product at a good price. And so they got together like you and creating a need. If there's any product or need, a co-op is a way of doing it. It's a model for mobilizing people, is what it is. And so the Ontario Cooperative Association, which I'm part of, we are the umbrella for all co-ops, credit unions, food co-ops, housing co-ops, ag energy, Gailey Dairy. How many people know Gailey Dairy is a co-op? Okay? Mountain Equipment Co-op. There's so many out there, but again, a lot of people don't know the connections, and there's some that are for-profit, and there's some that are non-profit, even though I don't like that term. And they all are united under an easy way to say it is people, planet, and profit. You've got to make money. The question is, what about the taking care of the people and taking care of the environment? And there are 7 international principles that we all go by, and we are based in Guelph, and we only have 5 staff, and I'm the acting executive director right now. My executive director is on mat leave, and my job is co-op development. We have a communications person, we have a membership person, we have a bookkeeper, we have a co-op developer, and we have a government relations person. So we're small but mighty. There is the Ontario Cooperative Association, there's the BC Cooperative Association, there's, all the provinces have them. And then there's a national organization called Cooperatives and Mutuals Canada, and it's in Ottawa. And then there's an international organization called the International Cooperative Alliance. There's 1 billion co-op members worldwide. It is a huge movement, but you wouldn't know it from Ontario, unfortunately. Ontario has the least co-op awareness of any province. If you go to PEI, everybody knows about a co-op. If you drive down the street in Calgary, you see a co-op gas bar, a co-op grocery store, a co-op pot store now, co-op liquor store. You see, because of the agricultural history, right? That's part of the reason. But, and Quebec, huge co-ops, very successful. And Desjardins, how many people have heard of Desjardins? Yeah, Desjardins. It's a massive, wonderful credit union cooperative bank. And the reason it was started in 1901, I think it was, is because, again, people were getting ripped off by the banks. The average person couldn't get a loan, couldn't, get financing. So they said, they literally, Alphonse and Dormier, credit union, they started the credit union on their kitchen table. And now it's a multi-billion-dollar behemoth, and it's doing good work. So, people, planet, profit. So that's the overview. of who we are and what we do. What I hope to, sort of offer, and I do know about co-ops, but you are doing something, every development is unique and exceptional based on the people and the community that is being developed, but there are certain things that are in common. And so if you look at this particular sheet that I handed out, and you flip it over to these sort of 10 general stages of co-op development, and you are, you don't have to go through each one in order, but it is interesting to look at, you've identified, number one, you've identified a need. Everybody's talked about it. Housing's a problem. Sustainability, good jobs, whatever it is, a service or product, you've identified. And in this case, sustainable housing and more. Number two, you begin to work with others who share the same thing. Again, you're doing that. Number three, you start to look at the market and the feasibility of it, and you've already made a good crack at one, and you're looking at potential other sites. You've got, you've talked to economic development people locally. You've looked at land development possibilities. You've already done a lot of that. And then number four, hire a consultant and work on a business plan. You're partly working on that. And then number five, determine the organizational structural questions, and you've formed a board of directors, you've got some bylaws, you again have started to move on that, and I guess there are some specific questions that people have, and I hope I can address some answers to those. Number six, you've incorporated. You've actually started, you are a legal entity. And a lot of people, again, who are not familiar with business don't realize that, the whole corporate structure, while there's all kinds of problems with what corporations are doing to us, it is a mechanism for people to act collectively. And so there is a cooperative corporation. It provides legal liability for the members and for the board of directors. And so you've done that. You've created this entity. Number seven, recruit and educate members. Well, you've been ongoing doing that. You've got some new people tonight, but you've got people who have been involved with the project and have stuck with it for, over a year and a half, 2 years. And you said on your mailing list you have how many people?
We're upwards of 150 now.
Yes, 150. Fantastic. You've reached out into the community. And number eight, raise necessary startup capital, including member investment, outside investors, and lenders. That you're in the process of doing that, and have different. You've got a membership cost that you provide some of you. You've also looked at other funding things, and I'm going to present some funding ideas. Number nine, first your general membership meeting and elect the first board of directors. You've done that. Did you have the board of directors? Was it elected at a board, or was it the initial founding board?
The initial founding board.
Founding board, yeah, which is standard. When you start something new, some people have to step up and become the first volunteer, and then you have a general meeting to elect them, because it's a democratic organization. And then number 10, you're open for business. Well, not quite there yet, but you are very much on the way. So that's standard for all kinds of co-ops. I started a housing co-op with some friends years ago, and the government actually had an incredible program back in the 70s and 80s. There was a co-op housing program nationally as well as provincial. Unfortunately, in 1995, the Harris government killed the co-op support programs. Now, this provincial government's not on board, but the feds have announced a housing program, and I don't know all the details, but I know who knows, and we'll get those details. And you've already looked, have you made contacts with, say, the local MP's office or the Co-op Housing Federation? You told me, I can't remember, you did have a contact with the Co-op Housing Federation.
I talked to Chapel Street.
Oh, sorry. Right, you're looking at financing, but I meant the actual, the development people. There are people who have survived from the Harris years, and there's excellent consultants. Tim Welch, he's based out of, you know Tim Welch? Yeah. How do you know him?
We're working with him on maybe doing another project.
Excellent. And has he worked with anybody here besides you?
Yes, he's worked with a non-profit organization, municipality.
Yeah.
He's organized our Dowell Heights, which is just in its second phase. Third phase is in the apartment building going in.
And the feds, you said seniors, right?
Yes.
The feds have just announced money for senior housing. So again, two, sources of capital as well as expertise. Dynamite. Tim Welch, his dad or his uncle was a former cabinet minister years ago, the Welch family. And so definitely want to talk to him and integrate somehow your expertise into this committee. There's a project in Guelph doing the same thing that I'm working with, and so they've offered to provide any of their knowledge. And it's this exact same, not exact, it's a very similar affordable, sustainable housing project, and 26 units, and they are moving ahead. There's another one in London, Ontario, that is working, and it has a bit of a different focus in that they're trying to integrate people with disabilities, because there's a lot of parents with kids with disabilities who are obviously very worried about what's going to happen when they go. Who's going to help integrate and take care of their kids? So this group is partly focused on that in London. So there's expertise out there to help with that. There's another group in Toronto called Options for Homes. Has anybody heard of Options for Homes? You have heard of Options?
Yeah.
Mike LeBay, very knowledgeable development person. His focus was what I call, they started as a co-op, but they utilized the Condo Act to basically allow development to end up with home ownership, affordable home ownership. But they've come up with a very interesting mortgage support program that helps people who need some extra support to make that capital investment. So again, he's a perfect person who would assist and provide, and is offered, and is helping out on these other two projects. And we've already talked to Tapestry.
Do you know, David, Paul Conley? We had some advice from Paul Conley. He was involved in the church program.
I don't know that person, but again, interesting. Churches. We met with the United Church, and I imagine it's a similar situation in all denominations. They're asset rich and aging membership. So they're converting, the United Church is converting some of their buildings into co-working space, into housing, and they're able to leverage capital. So if they partner with you, they can get money, either direct investment or they can leverage because they have all these assets. And so that might be an interesting, I don't know about the Anglican diocese and what they can offer, but I know the United Church is very actively doing it, and the person who is the contact is also a business developer person. Great. You nodded, you know somebody in the United Church?
No, it made me think of something I saw on Bloor Street in Toronto, where a United Church and a synagogue joined together. And it's an amazing, the year's worth. You have a United Church where they know meeting their Sundays, and the synagogue meeting Fridays to Saturdays. Everything works. And there's so many like that in Toronto.
Yeah, no, you are part of a wave. I'm glad I'm still around because I've been fighting this for years, but I'm feeling very good that it's like a lot of pieces are falling into place, and collaboration, cooperation, social enterprise, all these things are starting to come together. And it's partly, unfortunately, because we are facing a crisis of climate change, but it's also a crisis of equity. you know, the justice, social justice, the 1%, 99%. Like, you know, I can't stand it when I hear some, like the Fraser Institute or the C.D. Howe Institute talk about, oh, taxes are too high. No, there's tons of money out there. It's just some people aren't paying their taxes. And they're off in, you know, offshore accounts in the Caymans, and I was just in Bahamas, the money in Bahamas, the yachts, I don't have to tell you, you just have to flip through Hello magazine. You can see Hello magazine?
You weren't on holidays there, were you?
Yeah, I was working. My wife was working.
I know. Yeah,
I'm always working. No. But anyway, I'm just saying I'm excited for you and anything I can do and answer questions. And I'm just dumping some information on you in context. But I think, you know, I don't think there's a need to sort of go back to basics here. There's some new people, but even the new people know about the co-op movement. I think it'd be more useful for me to hear specific questions that I would then attempt to answer. I'm not the expert on everything, but on the Co-op Act, I'm fairly good, and on the co-op movement. And again, I think you're part of a fantastic, you know, movement that is necessary, and people are stepping up. It's democratic. It's democracy in action. Who knows what the origins of the word democracy? What is it? What does it mean? Somebody from Greece here? Come on.
Demos, isn't it?
Demos, cracy. Rule by the people. You know, I mean, it wasn't that long ago we had monarchy, right? I mean, we still have her, Queenie's still on our money. She's technically still our head of state. Monarchy, and then we've evolved to democracy. Again, I always say this, when did women get to vote? When? 1919, 1918. There was federal, and then there were certain provincial ones. People of color, when did they get to vote? When did people of Aboriginal descent, when did they get to vote? It hasn't been that long. We're evolving. So the economy has to evolve, and you are part of an evolution of progressive, democratic economy. Some people have called it democratic capitalism. You know, capitalism has got us this far. It's had good points and bad points, and unfortunately a lot of mess and inequity. But now it's time to move to something more democratic, something more shared, something more idealistic, that we can actually do it. It's not like in the 20s when the Depression, and I'm sure some of you know about through family members, and I know all the stories of my grandparents and what they went through. There was not a lot of stuff. There actually was shortages of stuff, you know, be it housing and materials and even food. There is no shortage of stuff now. There's no shortage. Anybody who says that, I'll challenge them, it's a lie. There is no shortage. It is greed and, you know, covetousness that is holding on to the stuff. And we need to share it. And what you're doing here is helping to change that. So I've been on a rant. I will stop.
None of you know that Agnes McPhail, was 21, was an MP here. So this is one of the places where...
So this is a historical site of radicalism. This is good. That's good. Agnes McPhail, she's awesome. Yeah. So, is there a specific... Yes, please.
I just wanted to ask if anybody knows if Dick Hibmuck has been part of this at all, because he's part of an organization with the Dutch church that are doing some housing as well.
So should I get
Dick Hibmuck?
Dick Hibmuck?
Yeah. So we'll get him here as well. Yes, that's another group that's putting in some housing with the Dutch Reformed Church.
And that's what we
We should get all the groups that are doing housing together.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot happening in town. People don't know about each other.
Yeah. It's about, again, there's so much out there now, and dare I say the federal government's throwing money because they're going into an election. Hope we won't go down that road, but hopefully there'll be something progressive come out of this election, not the other way. But there is money. They want to, they've created a $750 million, basically a social enterprise fund. If they get reelected, it will be used for a lot of projects like this.
This is more a question for the Glassworks crew, because I haven't been directly involved recently, but what is the status of any property on the table? Is there property on the table, or?
So there's several properties available.
Okay.
You heard that the possibility of babies coming gone.
Right.
The one that we've kind of has been most sparking our imagination is the property just past the waterworks, past the arena. That was the old Russell Brothers boat
Oh
site.
yeah. Okay. Nice.
So, that's one that we were like working on the details, trying to figure out like all of the details around the hazard lands and the record of site condition, and just kind of doing a business plan based around how much of that property is actually developable and how many units could we get on there and that kind of thing. Which ultimately, this thing we're going to have to do on every site that we're excited about in order to make well-informed decisions. But that's the one that we've been focusing a lot on lately.
So Chelsea, there's been a full development proposal for that site already that we can get our hands on.
Exactly. And so I don't know if we have our hands on it, but we know of it. So let me put that on our to-do list to get our hands on it.
And we just have to go through the municipality for that.
Right, and I think someone like Tim Welch, who has development experience of nonprofit housing, co-op housing, he knows all the ins and outs. So you definitely want, especially the fact that you two are already working on something, and he's working on a project with Habitat for Humanity in Guelph, you definitely want someone like him on board.
Another person we should put on there is Ruth Lovell, because Ruth was working with that other development that was proposed for that site when she was mayor, and she's still now totally involved in housing. So she's, I think that's another person we can put in here. Yeah.
There has to be, you are putting a lot of volunteer time into this, correct?
Absolutely.
And so he is, and others are. I would really strongly suggest that you find a way to, get some staff. Number 5 or 6 in there. A developer who can support you. Maybe some money to hire expertise like Welch, but somebody who can be your coordinator in addition to all the volunteer time. Because, you got to be realistic. When we started our food co-op, there was lots of people who wanted to sign up, and we got memberships and stuff, but everybody's busy. And so you got to find the right person to help with the coordinating, the emailing, and the calling of the meetings, and all that stuff. That's just standard organizational stuff. And so I would, if there's some people here who, are part of your finance committee, I know you want to look at land right away, but it would be it would definitely be helpful to have a body to help you be the project manager, whatever term you want to use.
Do you have a sense of funds to support that kind of startup development?
Yes, the feds, because of, you might be able to tap into the senior money or the new Co-op Housing Federation money, because they want that to happen. And so does the city. So does your MPP, I gather, is not as potentially supportive here, but your MP should be. I don't. Anyway, I would. Looking into those funds, it is out there. I know there's money out there because the problem is so dire.
So the federal money, this is a new fund?
Yes, it was announced maybe 3-4 months ago.
Okay, so we'll rely on you to forward
I will track it
information
down.
when it comes forward.
Yep, I've already.
And then in terms of our MP and MPP, I'm super curious to do just a scan of the room of anyone that might have insights as to an angle that this project might spark the interest of either of our municipal.
Yeah, forget about the politics they might have, but it's got to be in their interest.
That would inspire either
Yeah, housing's got to be of interest to them.
Well, you've got to use the election process and all candidates meetings to bring attention to this.
No, well, yeah, that's always good.
Yeah.
But what about you have a meeting with your MPP or your MP. Right now, somebody I'm a constituent. I would like to meet you with a group from the Glassworks to talk about our ideas, familiarize yourself, and can you help us? It's your tax dollars. So there hasn't been a delegation to them.
And
got to do it.
And I think we would maybe like a little bit of expertise as to like what are the most powerful ways to present this project.
It's a powerful project. I think a summary of it, there's no question. You go to their staff first. I used to be a staffer for an MVP. And you go to the staff person, you find out, you ask them for help, you present your issue, and then you prep them, and then you get them to set up a meeting with their member, and the staff do the work. The MP cuts the ribbons for the MVP. But if the staff prepares it and you show them that it's in their interest they'll look good for their member, for Owen Sound, because they've created, sustainable, affordable housing, it's like wide open. They got to respond. Why wouldn't it? Makes them look good. Makes them hopefully they want to get reelected. Even if they are kitty killers. Who knows?
Oh my gosh.
Sorry.
So I was just, in terms of the delegation and the decision making, it just remind me, what do you think about Robert's rules for large groups like this to help with the decision making process?
If you don't have to have it, you elect a board of directors. The board of directors is probably going to do a lot of the nitty gritty, but the meetings, unless
it's just, I know
fights.
That at least I have, and possibly other people have had proposals, but it just feels like it falls on deaf ears and it never gets to any kind of decision-making process, and we never get to talk about it in the groups or anything. And if there was some kind of way for people in the group to, have a group discussion about things that the members want to talk about, that other than, because otherwise it's just the board has a monopoly on all decisions and then we're just kind of along for the ride.
Well, I would hope that they're more responsive in coming and having meetings like this and have committees where you talk about that. Your board has an agenda and puts it out and has general meetings. I just don't think everybody can decide everything, though. You do need representation. I don't know, sounds like you have a specific issue, but you propose it to the board, and then you technically can go to a membership meeting. You want to formalize that, you can.
And if I might maybe clarify the board structure, just because I know we're small, we're starting up from a volunteer base. So official board members, if you want to raise your hands right now.
One,
so
two,
it's Graham, Zoe, Bob, Yuri, myself, Suzanne, who's usually does much more beautiful notating than me, is also on the board. And as Peter said, that was like the voluntary board, founding board structure. And as you can see, we're very small, we're very welcome to input and feedback as we're developing this process, as we're like solidifying our governance model. But the next round of board members will be elected from the membership base. And in the meantime, we are 100% open to input, feedback, questions, comments, and people interested in stepping up to a committee role. So our last gathering on May 3rd in the same room, we did a sort of informal breakdown into 4 committees based on people's areas of interest or expertise. You didn't have to be an expert in the field, but something that you're excited about. So one was the communications committee that would look at, things like grant writing and press releases, and like how we present ourselves, how we define
fair to say it's about these questions, though, and I appreciate the work that you've been doing on mission, values, and vision. But proposals that come forward are probably going through this kind of filter already. So there may not be a formal, we haven't figured out our formal decision-making or interactive process, but I think there may be some of this kind of filtering going on already. So it's not totally open, is it?
Fair enough. And I will admit that during the process of making an attempt to jump on the Bayview property, we didn't have the time because there was a very strict deadline on when that proposal could get, or when the application could get put in. We didn't have time for like a full membership call out to go through this and the design committee to figure out is everything that we believe in, what would it look like on this site, and what does everybody think about how these visions relate to the design on the site, and would that, like, we didn't have time to go through that process, so it was a really interesting learning process for everybody to see how decisions happen.
You're volunteers.
And
you're trying to do a lot with a little.
Yeah.
Have any of the subcommittees met?
Since May the 5th now.
And so I'll take full responsibility for that because I was super busy and didn't stick everybody together. But we have been connected in the previous couple weeks, and that's definitely going forward. The next steps is for the people that have already volunteered and expressed interest in these different committees to each think about who could we really use on this committee, who has the expertise that we're lacking, and for every one of the members or interested members of those committees to really think about who we need, what expertise do we need, who can answer our questions, and who's going to take it for coffee and get them excited about this project.
Is there chair, somebody designated to be sort of the point person to start? Because again, you're starting.
For each
So
committee?
who's communication? Who's communication?
Communications was Zoe, correct?
Okay. And who's
All right, can I
finance?
write it down on paper here?
Yeah, who's finance? Okay.
Bob.
And who's design?
Me.
Okay. And who's governance?
Grant.
Okay. Good. So there's the bodies. So
Okay.
we'll start that.
Do you want to just do that once more, just so you know? So the committee chairs, Graham is your contact person.
Well, this is the way things happen. This is an example, a case in point of how things happen. So I'm being named the chair of this group because I happen to be the one with the pencil and paper sitting at the table over here with Anne and Paige on the day that we last met. Was there a formal decision-making process that led to my being made chair of that committee? No, it was Kelsey pointing at me just now.
But it's your loud voice, that's what
You heard that chugga.
Any one of us are happy to be dethroned at any moment.
Absolutely. We're ready for the democratic
Okay, so you
process to kick in as soon as possible.
But I think it's a great that you people have stepped up to start, and then as you know, people are attracted to finance or to whatever, and then you start to formalize things. So, for instance, I'll give you a formal date, which is when were you incorporated? What? Give me a ballpark.
This spring.
What was the official day?
October.
What was the date?
Should I turn the lights on, guys? Yeah.
October 18th. So, then a target for you is 18 months. The 15th day of October 2018. That's when you were incorporated. And you have 18 months from that date to hold your first members' general meeting.
That's next spring.
Yeah. And then after that, you have to have annually a general meeting, at least one, every 15 months. Right? So the first time around, because it's new, and new people have to volunteer, blah, 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 before they're elected. So you've got 18 months to have your meeting. So
Sorry, when's our first AGM?
So it'll be 18 months from October 2018.
It'll be April the 18th, by April the 18th of 2020.
Okay.
Yeah. Not that anybody's going to be, you know, the government doesn't monitor this, but by the act, you are supposed to have that.
Well, you
done.
do have to submit the names of the board
Bingo.
members and that sort of thing. If you forget to do that, at some point, your corporation will be null and void. I know from experience. And,
And so that's a target. I'm just
Yeah.
saying that you know, there's the act takes into account the fact that when you're starting, you know, you have volunteers who step up or are appointed, and then you have your elections. So you've now clarified that. You can work towards having more formal bylaws and process.
So what's your experience in terms of like the membership? Although obviously the board members, the 6 or 7 of them are members, and what designates a member? Is it a payment fee, or is it
Okay, so that's
just
a really good question.
join
too.
Facebook? Or
So until this point, we've been like informally
Yeah.
considering Glassworks members, people let it sound on their mailing list.
Right.
But as we go forward more formally, Zoe, who is like our amazing web whiz,
Corporate secretary.
has just set up a format for paying either online or like in person with a credit card. I think you have it here tonight. Do you want to say a couple words about how that works?
Yeah, definitely. So if you feel more comfortable to sign up on our website, it's at glassworks.coop, and you just hit join us. And there's 3 memberships to choose from: regular, which is $50 a year, unwaged or student, which is $25 a year, and corporation or organization, which is $100 per year. And each membership type carries 1 vote. So 1 membership, 1 vote. That's so you can go through the donor process on our website, or we have also paper forms here tonight if you prefer to be manual about it. And we also have the square reader if anyone wants to sign up and right on the spot as well.
Yeah, so what would make sense is after this meeting, your gathering is set at the end of this meeting, set the next target. The board targets a next membership meeting, and all those people who have signed up are invited. Because they're the ones who put up or shut up. They're the ones who join and have taken on a membership. 1 member, 1 vote. And then you can start to move forward with your formalizing processes, and you know the chair can set an agenda, and you can start to move. The committees will meet on their own, and then you start to do like any good organization does.
So just to be clear, like the official voting happens once a year at the AGM, right?
For the board, the election for the board.
Right.
You can have other general meetings, but you have, by the act, you have to have that at least 1 meeting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And could you clarify what the corporate status is of the?
It's a cooperative corporation, and they have the directors are listed.
Not for profit. Or non-profit?
Without share.
Without share.
Which
Not for profit without share.
Yeah. In the co-op world, there's with share and without share. And if you're without share, you can apply for non-profit status for CRA, so you don't pay taxes. Plus, you can get grants. If you're with, we started up a coffee roasting company, and it was a worker co-op. It was with share, and it was for profit. We paid our taxes.
So the Sustainability Network is a not-for-profit corporation. It's not a cooperative.
Right.
What's the difference?
Oh, interesting. So, the easiest way to say it is, and I always want to preface by saying we need to get rid of the term not-for-profit.
Yeah.
Because, but this is an earworm for you.
I've been saying
People
this
want to be known by what they are, not by what they're not. So there's something called the Ontario Nonprofit Network, which is, you know, the Red Cross and all kinds of the Humane Society, tons of nonprofits. But they have to make some money, otherwise they don't exist. They either get grants or they sell memberships and stuff. So it should be called, and I know they're working towards it, changing it to community benefit or some term like that, some positive term, not non-profit.
Right.
Non-profit status is what the CRA grants you so that you don't pay taxes. So, what's the difference between a co-op and a non-profit, a co-op that has non-profit status and a non-profit? The main difference is that the co-op is specifically for the members who have a vote. And it's to provide a product or service for the members. They can do broader things, but it's the members who control it. In a non-profit, it's usually broader, like say Blood Service or the Humane Society, but it's not everybody who's part of it gets a vote. They have a tighter control.
Yeah.
They might service broadly, but it's usually a smaller board that is controlled by whatever their bylaws say. Where a co-op is definitively democratic.
Member-based.
It's member-based.
Okay, well, that's
But, you know, there's similarities.
Yeah.
And then there's for-profit co-ops, like the credit unions and the cooperators and Gailey, and, you know, so that's.
Yeah, in your experience with co-ops, have you found municipalities helpful in the development of it?
That's a great question, but a municipality is like a co-op. It's one member, one vote. It's people coming together to provide services and products for their members, and their members happen to be taxpayers. And so, yes, especially now, because municipalities are looking for help to provide services because the government is cutting back. So if you come along and you're a self-help organization, a co-op that's self-help oriented, they should be supported. And I know they are, the ones we like, well, Hamilton.
And have they been supportive to the extent they might give city property or the co-op, or?
I don't know about giving it, but they sure as heck should give breaks. Yeah. Yeah, like a development charge break or something. The catch-22, of course, they're bound by legislation. And so there's always this tension between nonprofits and nonprofit co-ops and the private sector. It's sort of like, you know, Dean, right? Yeah, and you come along with your co-op and say, we're going to start up this store and do this and do that. And, you know, I'm Loblaws over here going, wait a minute. Why is Dean getting this break? You know? Yeah. So that's the tension. So they have to act within the rules. But overall, if you're, you know, doing good nonprofit charitable type, not charitable, I can't use that word, that's a separate designation, then they should support. Especially housing.
So this tension has been expressing itself in our conversations about our model. And at our governance group, this is one of the questions. Is the cooperative an opportunity for philanthropy or an economically viable nonprofit? Sorry, I'm not used to the new term yet. Or an investment opportunity with anticipated returns on investment, because we've had all different kinds of models suggested.
So interesting, very interesting, and it is an ongoing struggle in the whole, in quotes, social enterprise movement. That's the buzzword now that everybody talks about, social enterprise. People, right? They've heard of this? Yeah, social enterprise this, social enterprise that. And I go, that's fantastic, because it's about doing business for good. But then you say to them, well, how do you incorporate it? Because you only have three options. People think there's only one corporation. There's a business corporation, a nonprofit corporation, and a cooperative corporation. So depending on who the members are and what they want, then, you know, that determines choices and preferences and what act you're acting under. But from the public's point of view, it comes down to what is it you're trying to accomplish? Are you trying to, make $1 million, or are you trying to provide affordable housing? And you can use investment through bonds. Tapestry is a great example where people, they want to be helpful, but they can't give it away. They need some return. So that's a way to provide, make your money do good, but still make a little bit of return. You're not a venture capitalist who wants 25% return. 42%. Right?
42.
Or what?
Well, I heard 42%.
42%, yeah. Venture, yeah. Yeah. My friend Michael LeBay, when you ever talk to him about Options for Homes, the reason that drove him to start that organization in Options International, he was so tired of developers making literally 1,000% on developers. Oh yeah, I mean they do. The average person just wants to do their job and do whatever. They don't think about these things. But anybody who's in business knows that, and especially as a developer, you can make outrageous profits, and they do. So,
Either they had communications or some experience with community foundations. I'm thinking that we would be eligible because we're a registered corporation to actually accept.
Charitable corporation.
Yeah, but we're not charitable.
Oh, okay.
Right? This group is not charitable.
Oh no, this one isn't.
So
No.
if we have donations made to us, we can't give them tax receipt. But we might work with another organization to take the donations in, whatever.
Wonderful.
So that's one person that might come to the table because they are actually, through their vital signs, putting housing at the top of their list of things as well.
Community foundations are fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah. And community futures corporations.
Yes.
There's one here in
Yes.
Zoe and I were talking about it today. That's your tax dollars at work helping create economic development. They should help you. I'll give you quick 2 examples if you don't mind, and please interrupt me if there's questions, because you can tell I'm a motor mouth and I've had coffee. so that makes it work. In Campbell Fuller, where good friends of Barry and I live, they had a small theater, an independent theater, movie theater. All theaters, independent or otherwise, had to switch over from film to digital. Cost $100,000 plus to update. The owner of the theater said, not going to do it, close the place down. The community said, wait a minute, we don't want to lose that. We don't want to drive to Lindsay or Peterborough for half an hour or 45 minutes to watch a movie. They came together with the help of the community foundation. They sold bonds. They created a community co-op. They negotiated a deal with the owner, and they created the Aron Theater, A-R-O-N. And if you go online, they put all their bylaws there. They put everything there. They now run first-run films, 130 seats. They switched over to, they raised the money to switch over to digital, and they have, it's a community hall. They have events, they have music, they have speakers, and it's turned into a cultural hub in this little town of 3,500 people. And otherwise, it would have been a boarded-up fire trap on the main street.
Similar thing is happening in Westdale.
The Westdale Theater. Is that right? It's sold by, it's been bought by.
Yeah, by the community. There was some philanthropists behind it, and they sold shares. Just a lot of donations from the community.
I wonder if
I
it's
don't know
a nonprofit that has run the
government.
Right. You just twigged me. I didn't answer the one part of the question you said. There's philanthropy, and then there's sort of solidarity. And I think what the co-op model is about, it's not about charity. We like philanthropy, but it's not about charity. It's about social justice and equity, community equity. Like I have a strong feeling against food banks. I think they are necessary, unfortunately, but it's charity, it's not justice. And so a co-op is about justice. It's democracy, it's about values. So I think that's what you're creating. You're creating, you know, a justice organization. You'll get philanthropy, you'll get donations, you'll get that, but it's not about, you know, the rich people giving to the poor. It's the community coming together to create something.
Our challenge has been, I think, gathering enough of those